Well, so love to. I heard your comments on the all-mail voting system. What about this Colorado vote center model that I know that LA County is looking at very closely, where you can vote for 2 weeks before election day, right up to election day, at centers all over the community, shopping malls, libraries, schools, et cetera?
Right, exactly. That's where I'm headed in terms of giving the people, the voters, the flexibility of where they can cast their ballot. So I'm glad you mentioned Colorado because they have local elections this May. And I'm planning to lead a team from the Secretary of State's office to go not just monitor the elections to make sure they're on the up and up, but literally study how, from a technology standpoint, from a policy and legislative standpoint, they got to where they are and how it's working, and bring that back to California. But we don't even have to go as far as Denver. Last year, Assembly member Lorena Gonzalez authored legislation that was signed into law to allow San Diego County to pilot this kind of model. And I know Registrar Vu will be here to discuss that in further detail. So we have a California experience to glean from as well.
All right. Thank you so much. I'd love, you want to ask a couple questions?
We may have to have you come back or do this again, Mr. Chairman, because this inspires so many questions, and we appreciate you being very accessible, Mr. Secretary. Two quick questions, and you don't have to expound on them too much, but I just want to plant them in there. I was with the election clerks and the clerks and elections officials. They were sponsors in the Selma event, and we appreciate their partnership and their work with their office. One member of the organization mentioned a program that she does with minor voters, and they take real elections and model how you vote. And I think it's sometime just previous to the election, but it's in relatively close proximity. Is something like that scalable, or something that we can attach to curriculum in civics classes or high school settings? Have you? I know that because of your long tenure in office, you've done significant civic engagement programs. Is that something that the Secretary of State's office can take a leadership role with the elections clerks and officials on?
I believe it is, and so let me try to be brief on a couple of examples. Well, three quick items. Number one, there's already a requirement and an institutionalized program in partnership with the Superintendent of Public Instruction to do the sort of mock elections. I think that's what you're referring to in each county. And it's a double-edged sword. Right before a real election, that's when more people are paying more attention. But the personnel commitment to that takes elections staff from the state and the local level from talking to real voters that can vote in a real election and talking to minors through this learning experience. So I'd like to kind of reconsider the timing of when we do that. Keep it, trying to keep it effective in educating young people. But if we can do that at maybe a different year or a different time of year and close to an election, focus on people who are registered or can register before the deadline, I think would be wise to do that. Number two, Placer County. My understanding is the registrar, this is what he's told me, visits every high school every year to talk about the importance of voting, and does something that's simple but elegant. Brings a voting booth to the assembly, to the classroom, whatever the format may be. They line the students up and they go through the motions of how to cast a ballot. And I think that's genius, because as someone who grew up in a household where we didn't talk politics at the dinner table, when you turn 18, and you're no longer a minor and you do anything legal or official, it can be pretty intimidating unless somebody holds your hand through the process the very first time. So again, breaking down those barriers of intimidation or being overwhelmed the first time you do something can be helpful. But absolutely working in partnership to build on how often we talk to young people or reach young people has to be a big priority. Dean Logan will talk about how young people are actually the plurality of potential voters, but they vote at the lowest rates. So there's a potential to kind of redefine politics going forward.
Lastly, I think there was a goal set to have 1 million additional voters participate.
In your district alone, Mr. Rudick.
In my district alone. I believe in growing the vote, Mr. Secretary. you've spoken to some of the generalities. Are there specific goals that you think can target that to help move the needle over what we hope will be a long and successful tenure?
We're fleshing out the further details of a specific plan. I talked, I think, as you were entering, building on the National Voter Registration Act and its implementation in California. Okay. We know we have successful online voter registration platform, but we know we can and have been successful in integrating voter registration opportunities as people interface with government. So making sure that we're identifying as many feasible agencies, state departments, and even local government departments and agencies as possible, and then buttressing those government employees with the training on how to do it seamlessly, I think will serve us well.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for your leadership and your testimony.
Thank you.
Senator Hertzberg.
Yeah, in the context, Mr. Secretary, of the marketplace of ideas and experimenting and doing new things from a public policy perspective, as I'm sitting here listening to your ideas, one came to mind, not to otherwise to just maybe inspire your office to think about this. But, you know, from public policy point of view, we do all sorts of things at government, the state and federal government. We just set goals. And we tell people you got to meet them. The RPS, Renewable Portfolio Standards. I'm sorry, figure it out. Low carbon fuel standards or the mileage, we tell the car companies, go figure it out. If in fact there's such creative genius, just go at the state, set the standards. It is not acceptable in a democracy when you travel the world and you look at this place and you got these turnouts. It's just embarrassing. We have this duplicity on the one hand, we talk about this great democracy and this patriotism for democracy, and it's really not. It's just not. Look at these numbers. We talk about registration. The numbers that we have here of 24 million eligible people in California, and then you break it down from eligible to registered. These are all barriers. I just think you got to take a blow it up standard at some level and change the game and quit being so interested in the management of the process and concerned and getting involved. We never do that with all these other interest groups that we tell them, no, this is the policy that we set. You as the chief election officer, maybe we work in conjunction with the legislative and executive branch and just say, you guys got to get 75%, Dean, make it happen. Period. End of case. Figure it out. Whether you're going to classrooms and taking these deals, which is a brilliant idea, or some of these other brilliant ideas, maybe that's a better way instead of micromanaging it and just hit the goal. So I don't otherwise say that in context of having specifics. I just wanted to share that as we're trying to deal with these big issues and figure it out. And I just think we got to push harder and be a little bit more aggressive on this stuff if it's possible. Thank you, sir. Okay.
I think there's a lot to that. I mean, that's what we did with AB 32 and just set the goal and make it happen. All right, Mr. Secretary, really, really appreciate your time, and looking forward to working closely with you to get you the resources you need to do this work, and also just be thinking very aggressively and proactively and creatively about how to address this veritable crisis in our democracy. So really do appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. All right, we are actually going to quickly turn to portion 8 of the agenda and ask Mona Field and Kathy Fang to come up and testify briefly before the committee about the Reform Commission. This will be a quick portion of the agenda, and I apologize for the change in the scheduling, but it has to do with some scheduling issues. So you could sit up in these chairs and speak to us, and we appreciate you both being here. Mona Field from the LA Community College District Board, and Kathy Fang, Executive Director of California Common Cause and member of the City of LA Municipal Elections Reform Commission.